Hello, everyone, and welcome to Telling Tales. I will be your keeper this evening. You are not Matt, I hear you say. That's correct. I'm not. I'm Jonny, and this is a new weekly stream that we're doing on Telling Tales, where I will be running a game of Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. This will be every Monday night at 8 p.m. And without further ado, here is Matt, that familiar face that you all know and some of you love, as our stream manager for the evening. Only some of you.
Yeah, only some of you. Yeah, I'll be stream managing. I'll be shuffling cams around, images, hanging out in chat, that kind of thing. While Jonny does his thing, does his keeping. That's the term, right?
We're yet to find out what my thing is, but it'll happen.
It will happen. It will happen.
Thanks, Matt. Links for everything are below on Twitch and or YouTube if you're watching this later. So there is our Discord, which you are welcome to join and come and talk to us about all things tabletop roleplay and other. Our Patreon is also below. If you would like to subscribe to us and help us keep making these shows, there are also some great rewards on there, including entry to other tiers of the Discord and even having Matt run a game for you if that's something that you would be interested in. There's also our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telling Tales or Telling Tales RP on most of those, but all the links are below. Other series on the channel, Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition is on tomorrow night. That's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. And Simba Room, which is from Free League Publishing, is on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. And there are monthly one-shots running on the first Saturday of every month. But back to this evening. As I've said, we'll be running Call of Cthulhu, which has been a staple in most role players' arsenal since the 80s. And the 7th edition came out a few years ago, and that's what we'll be using this evening. For those of you who have played earlier editions, this will be very familiar to you. There is, as is often the case with Call of Cthulhu, there's not a massive change. Still uses the D100 system and is based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, who we've realized earlier it's the anniversary of his death today. So there's that. Is it foreboding? Who can say? And that is most of the intro stuff done, I think. Please do feel free to talk to us in the chat and we can deal with questions or comments at the end. Matt will kindly put those up on the screen for us. And for now, we'll move into the story. So, Monday, the 4th of February, 1924. The day began with pleasant weather and a train journey on the London to Glasgow day train. As the day moved on, the weather became slightly more inclement, but still nothing that the drivers of the train were concerned about. The people in first class continued to receive their delicious food and drink. Everyone was at their beck and call, and those in standard, or at the time was third class, were having a reasonably pleasant journey, although the cars were a little rattly from time to time. One of the passengers on the train is our first character to come on screen, which is Dr. Jemima Wallace, played by Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Would you like to give us a description of Dr. Wallace and some character information?
Absolutely. So she is a professional marine biologist, kind of one of the forefront in her field. She's kind of trying to get it off the ground, and I think a lot of people think it's not really a science. But nonetheless, she has a a doctorate, a PhD from Bristol, and she's currently on the train journeying to meet with a Professor Sterling up in Glasgow. And she is, as you can see from the picture, rather a tall, handsome woman, but typically quite a kind of maybe fairly quiet and dour appearing, almost condescending perhaps. She's also quite broad-shouldered and seems quite almost athletic and active. The people who know her would say she would know she's well into hiking and adventuring, and she tends to like to go and see the things she's investigating with her own two eyes.
Very nice. A uniformed gentleman comes up to you and says, "Excuse me, can I offer you any food or drink, ma'am, from the cart?"
Shh. One moment. I'm basically studiously scribbling in a notebook as he's trying to bother my attention, and I'm just kind of not really looking at him. I finish writing the sentence that I'm writing, turn towards him and go, sorry, what was that?
There's some sandwiches left over from first class, ma'am, if I can interest you in any.
How much?
Well, I don't know, actually. Hang on, I'll go and ask the boss. I'm new, sorry. And this kind of slightly scared-looking man runs off.
I just frown at the man as he goes away, shaking my head, and then go back to my scribbling.
Also, probably looking slightly bemused next to you is a young man, which will be our second player and character for this evening, Jack, playing Melvin. Hello. Give us a description of Melvin, if you would, Jack.
So yeah, he's quite a slight, sort of unassuming guy who, the way I sort of pictured him in my head was like Harold Ramis or like Milo from that Disney Atlantis film, if anyone else ever watched that one as a kid. Yeah, and there's a bit of a backstory. So he's a lawyer who's newly qualified. He was sent off to boarding school by his uncle, who he sort of fell into his guardianship after his parents died. His dad died in the war, and his mum not long after. And so his uncle, having the money but not really the time or the want to raise someone else's kid, basically sent him off to get an education, and has set him up with this sort of job at his law firm. To basically, as his uncle put it, to pay off the debt that he now owes him for daring to be related to him and need his care. So he's probably sat there with his head in a mystery novel, which is probably Agatha Christie with the time period we're in. So probably not paid too much attention to the steward with the sandwiches and the like. He's
Cool.
Oh, sorry, too busy trying to sort of be as small as possible and not be a bother.
I might presume you've been fairly quiet so far in this journey. I'm probably quite like you.
So the man kind of scarpers back down the hallway of the carriage. Is Jemima still sort of scribbling at this point?
I feel like she's going to kind of just glare at him, confounded that he just brought some leftover sandwiches without any idea what he was doing with them. And then maybe after 5 or 10 seconds, kind of go back to look at her notes and maybe shake her head trying to remember where she was.
So as he kind of returns with a price from his boss, he looks at you and tries to assess whether or not he's going to speak to you again, depending on whether your head is back in what you're doing.
Is he like hovering next to me, or is he like walking on?
He's kind of, he's gone away to get the answer to a question. It's his first day, so he's come back and he's eager to kind of show that he's got the information, but also, doesn't want to bother you again. Okay. So he'll probably hover for a few seconds,
In those few seconds, I will put down my pencil and kind of lay my hands on the table and turn slowly to him and just kind of smile gently.
Just a couple of pence, ma'am. They're just cheese sandwiches.
Very well. I get out my little pouch and find a couple of pence.
He looks quite overjoyed at the fact that he's presumably made his first sale, and kind of gets you this paper wrapped sandwich and holds it out to you.
Mm-hmm. Does it look like genuine leftovers, or is it it's an all right sandwich?
It's from the first class carriage, so it's a reason. No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay. Not half eaten. No. And with his newfound confidence, he turns to Melvin and says, "And you, sir, do you want one?"
Sorry, what was that?
A sandwich, sir. A sandwich? Sorry. The lovely lady here just bought one. Just a tuppence for a cheese sandwich from the first class leftovers. I mean, not leftovers. That makes them sound bad. But they've not been eaten yet.
Yeah, sure. And he'll sort of dig in his wallet and hand over the 2 pence and have a. I just realised that's probably the two most awkward characters talking to each other in the things, or stuttering at each other.
So he takes that from you, and he's now out of sandwiches. You can see, so he heads off back down the carriage.
What a strange young man, I say to Melvin.
Sitting across the carriage from you two is our third character of the evening, played by Matt, and that is Dane Harrow. Would you like to give us a bit of a description?
Yeah, sure. So Dane is looking a little bit unkempt at the moment, though he's done his best to make himself look presentable for the public while he's on the train. He's spent almost a year in Nepal and Tibet. He's a mountain climber, or a professional mountain climber, though somewhat accidentally. He spent the last almost year supporting an expedition in Tibet and Nepal, and safe to say it went pretty terribly for him. He got there and then was immediately struggling in terms of fitness, and then got very ill for a number of months. And he's only recently returned to the UK, so he's looking a little bit rough and ready and a little bit underweight versus normal. But he's a very sort of quiet, well-spoken guy. He's adjusting to being back in he's been back in civilization, I suppose. So a little bit awkward, a little bit jumping to engage in conversation. But when conversation stops, he seems to kind of zone out and just be staring out the window. He's on his way up to Skye to try and get back on the horse and go to the Cullen Ridge and try and get fit again for some unknown future expedition.
Very nice. The seat next to Dane is empty. A uniformed man, different to the one that brought the sandwiches to Jemima and Melvin, walks up next to you and says, "Excuse me, sir. You may have experienced our new boy's first day, which I apologize for. However, I am here to see if you would like any refreshments remaining from the first class carriage."
Hello. Thanks so much for coming in. What do you have remaining?
We have a number of cheese sandwiches, and there is also provision for hot drinks.
Thank you. So he kind of looks around the cabin awkwardly, as if to ask whether anyone else would like something.
I will shake my head.
He kind of awkwardly smiles. No, I think I'm okay, thank you.
Very good, sir. Turns to you two and says, "And apologies for the young man," and continues on down the carriage. And you see this guy talking to different people down the carriage. a little while passes, and the weather continues to worsen as you are traveling north towards your destination of Glasgow. And the train pulls into Sheffield Station with a screech as the brakes struggle to find traction on the rails. And the doors open, and a number of people climb aboard, one of which takes a seat next to Dane, and that is our fourth and final player for this evening, Skye, who is playing Esther.
Hello.
Hello. Would you like to tell us a little about Esther, Skye?
So Esther is a very unassuming 34-year-old woman. She's dressed in modest, slightly outdated attire, but she wears a cap, a sort of a flat cap, old-fashioned, that she's rather fond of, that she got on a dalliance with a woman on the way back from South Africa on a voyage. She's fairly well travelled and is Dutch-born, but has been involved in the UK for a little while now on some light industrial espionage, and she's generally working for her father, a wealthy industrialist, and well, she's his illegitimate daughter, so possibly doesn't enjoy the same sort of privilege that perhaps his other daughters do. But yeah, she's traveling up to Glasgow for her stepbrother as a favour, who is a philanthropist, and she's traveling to the New Lanark Mills to sort of see what's being done there. It's a sort of an experiment in industrial philanthropy.
Very nice. So Esther takes her seat next to Melvin. Next to Dane. And the train sets off again. I don't know whether you two would have any interaction, or whether you're the kind of people that would sit to yourselves.
I don't think Esther certainly wouldn't say anything. She's very sort of modest, and well, she seems very modest and bashful.
I think Dane is staring out the window still.
As Dane stares out the window, as the train heads further north, the sky continues to darken, and the rain and wind continue to batter the train carriages. It descends into very high winds and heavy rain, and you hear passengers and train staff alike muttering in a combination of sort of London and Glaswegian accents about whether or not the train may end up having to stop. And every now and again, the conductor, sort of every 20 minutes or so, keeps walking down the train and saying, not to worry, everybody. This train is very new and steady, and it hasn't had to stop because of the weather yet. And I've been running up and down on this line for nigh on 10 years now. So you all rest easy. We'll have you at Glasgow by nightfall. All right.
I will lean over to Melvin. If he's not completely preoccupied in his book, potentially, if he's maybe like vaguely distracted by the weather, I was looking up and just kind of mutter like, if he's warning us of that, then surely that means, well,
I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to reassure everyone. It goes a long way for some people, doesn't it?
I wasn't worried about the weather until he said it.
Oh, well, now that you're worried about the weather, now I'm worried about it. I'm sure it'd be fine. There must be. It must be used to the weather like being bad up here. It's Scotland, isn't it?
What is the weather like outside, Johnny? Is it like just crazy storm, or is it really windy, or just everything?
It's not sort of thunder and lightning. There's a lot of it's heavy rain and strong winds, so you do kind of feel a bit of a wobble sometimes as a gust of wind hits from the side. So it's not at the point where you think this is going to have to stop, but if it continues to get worse, there's the potential that you would maybe think it would be unsafe for the journey to continue.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just look at Melvin and go, well, we can hope you're right.
I might sort of turn to the two who are talking and quietly introduce myself and go, hello, I'm Esther Smith. It's very nice to meet you. I'd like to assure you, I think the train should be able to withstand this weather. I have myself been on many journeys in far older trains, and they have done fine in stormy conditions. On the out in Africa, I was on a journey to Rwanda in a storm much greater than this one, and you should have seen the train. It was quite all right.
I nod at you and say, Dr. Jemima Wallace, pleased to meet you. You sound you're well travelled. And do not mistake me, I am not worried that the train will crash off the rails, merely that we'll have to stop and be delayed.
Dane at this point is going to awkwardly interject and introduce himself to the group. Hi everybody, my name's Dane. I'm a little bit concerned. I've travelled through here a few times before and never seen it quite like this.
I mean, if the conductor said it's all right, I'm sure. I'm Melvin, by the way, Melvin Caffey, and if the conductor says it's all right, I'm sure they know what they're doing.
Sure, I'm sure.
Yeah, I have heard that the weather has been changing in recent years. I know that with those who have been growing oats up here in Scotland, they've found their seasons have been pushed back a few months by the weather. So perhaps that's the phenomenon that you have been noticing.
How fascinating, Esther! I hadn't heard of this before.
I'm very keen on agriculture.
By the way, I'd like to retcon that I said, how fascinating, Mrs. Smith.
Okay. The journey continues on, and the weather, if anything, you think probably eases slightly. The conductor stops making his rounds as he obviously feels that people maybe don't need as much reassurance anymore. About 2:30 in the afternoon, which is about 30 minutes later than planned due to the train going slightly slower because of the weather, it pulls into Gretna. And anybody, Dane, I imagine, and anybody else who's sort of looking out of the window, maybe paying attention to what's going on, spots the conductor having some conversations with some railway staff at the station. And he's kind of there for probably about 5 minutes. So a reasonably lengthy conversation to be having at a stop that you're already late to. The conductor then comes back on board at the front of the train. And you hear him sort of working his way down the cars and making some kind of announcement as he heads towards you. Eventually, he enters your car and says, right, ladies and gentlemen, The signals have advised that the line is obstructed ahead. However, not to worry. There are contingencies in place for this sort of thing. And we can now take the Nithsdale line round to Glasgow. Those eagle-eyed among you will note that we're currently on the Annandale line. We can change line here, and we'll take in some smaller villages. It's what I like to call the scenic route. So we will be at Glasgow a little later, but it will still be this evening. Does anybody have any questions? And apologies for the inconvenience.
I'll say, how much later? I've got some important documents to get to Glasgow as soon as possible.
I would imagine about 2 or 3 hours, sir, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems that it's most likely a fallen tree across the line, and there's quite a lot of debris. So it will probably be tomorrow before that's cleared off. So the quickest thing for us to do is change line, and we'll still get you to Glasgow this evening. Apologies again. And he heads off and continues. You hear the same announcement again about 20 seconds later as he's slightly further down the train. And about 5 minutes later, you hear sort of the creaking of some line changing ahead of the train, and then you pull out of the station and turn off to the left, and start heading through some quite wonderful countryside. Some of it heading quite near the coast. So you get some sort of nice watery views there.
As soon as we reach the coast, I put my book down and start just glaring out the window and staring out the window instead.
Yeah, a couple of hours pass without incident. The train only stops a couple of times. You fly through a number of smaller sort of village stations. And as the sort of evening starts to close in, you reach the station in a village called Thornhill. The train stops, and you see the conductor having another conversation outside of the train with some railway staff, which anybody paying attention does not fill you with confidence.
Is it like the conductor's angry or just like, ugh?
No, he's not angry, but it looks to be a very similar conversation, type and length to the one that he had at Gretna.
Oh, good.
Jonny, has the weather improved or is it just as bad?
It's not as bad as it was at sort of lunchtime. It has eased off slightly. It's still sort of wind and rain, but it's more sort of normal bad weather now than a stormy scene. He comes back onto the train at the front, and you hear him, his voice coming towards you. You recognize the bad news tone from a couple of hours ago. And
I just shake my head and just kind of like do that thing where you lean sideways and look down the train a little bit to watch him as he approaches, kind of with my hands on my lap, just like.
He gets up to where you are, and he spots the face that Jemima is kind of pulling in his direction, and looks a little sheepish. And he kind of comes up and puts his hands behind his back in front of you all and says, my sincerest apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid that the this line is also obstructed ahead by flood.
Make an audible sigh.
Yes, I understand your frustration, and I can only apologise. The plan now is that I have some railway staff using the station telephone to call around some local villages and secure lodging for all of the passengers. The villages around here are small, as are the lodgings. So we're trying to split people into small groups to go to the individual village lodgings. Is there any reason that you four would not be happy to head to the same place?
Sounds acceptable to me. I kind of glance around.
Very good.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are we precisely?
We are in Thornhill, ma'am.
I continue to look slightly blank. Probably not knowing where Thornhill is.
We're still about 60 miles from Glasgow, I'm afraid. I will. He takes out a notepad and pencil and kind of makes a note of where you're sat, and says, "I'll pass on that you four are happy to head to the same place, and I'll have somebody come back to you as soon as lodgings are secured. Again, my sincerest apologies. Would any of you like a complimentary hot drink from the first class carriage?"
Ooh, that would be lovely. Thank you. A cup of tea would be nice.
Lovely. I'll get that sorted for you. Anybody else?
I'll just nod and say, please.
And I will pause, and I will say to him, and I hope you do get one for yourself as well. This is certainly trying for you, and not at all your fault.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Very, very, very kind of you to say. Much kinder than some of the other people on board, I have to say. Please, if anybody does decide that they need anything, just flag down a member of the train staff, and they'll be more than happy to help you. And I will, I'll have somebody speak to you once lodgings are secured. Thank you very much, and apologies again. And he disappears off.
Dana sort of absent-mindedly started gathering his things even before the conversation had ended. Not trying to be rude, but he seems quite unperturbed by this.
Mm-hmm. I will look over at Esther and go, I suppose you're right. Perhaps I was being a little harsh. It wasn't his fault. I was really looking forward to getting to Glasgow tonight.
Were you expecting to do something this evening then?
I was due to meet early tomorrow morning with the professor, so I suppose the other hindrance would have been fine, but I very much doubt we'll make it in time now. I don't know how long it's going to take them to clear the railways, and, well, there's no other real way, is there, practically?
Well, I mean, at least there is a railway. The infrastructure in this country is quite good.
I think I just kind of like, at this moment, given the current circumstance, kind of just smile and look out the window.
Dana's going to offer everybody a cigarette.
Do I smoke? I don't know if I smoke. Probably would smoke given the time. Everyone smoked. Really.
Everyone smoked. It was good for you back then.
I will immediately accept and go, oh yes, that will go lovely with my cup of tea. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Much appreciated. I nod at you.
And probably stand up to slightly struggle with a window, which will automatically let in a huge blast of air and rain.
Puts everyone's cigarettes out.
My hat's blown off.
Oh, sorry. I suppose we'll have to do without the fresh air.
A member of train staff who's carrying some mugs of tea down to you says, sorry, ma'am, I hate to ask, but would you mind just keeping the windows closed at present?
Of course. I'm very sorry. I forgot the situation we were in.
No problem at all.
We're having such a lovely time in such good company. And I will accept the tea and be like, thank you very much. You're doing very good work.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Very kind.
This face I'm doing right here, that's what Jemima's doing. She's like...
About 20 minutes pass. You hear sort of muttering up and down the train. You see train staff going up to small groups of people and kind of leading them off the train. And
Can we see where those people are going? Are they being taken to like carriages or cars, or are they walking?
It varies. About 20 minutes after the initial announcement, a uniformed member of the staff comes back on board and says, "Excuse me, we've managed to secure your lodgings. It's in a small village called Durisdir, and there's a cart coming to get you, but I'm afraid it'll probably be another hour. So if you need any more refreshments, just let me know and I can go and get those for you."
Oh, all right. Understandable, yes. I suppose we have no other choice but to wait.
Do you know how far the village is? Will it take long to reach?
Yes, it's it'll be about once the cart's here, it'll be about another hour and a half back to the village. All being well with the roads, of course, the way that the weather is today. But you should be fine, I think.
Absolutely.
Very well. Truly the wilds here.
Yes, sorry about that.
I'm sure they can't help it, Dr. Jemima.
No.
Dr. Wallace.
Sure.
As you're talking, you see the guy kind of use that as an opportunity to move away from the conversation. So you have roughly an hour, you think, before your cart is arriving. You're obviously welcome to depart the train if you wanted to. It's not particularly nice outside still. It's more of a drizzle and a low wind now than howling, but still not, warm and sunny.
If it is just a drizzle, I think I'd kind of reach into my probably rucksack and kind of get my anorak. That's a word they would have used then, yeah. Anorak and kind of probably some stout boots and change into them, and then look back at anyone. Anyone else fancy a look around? I'm rather sick of sitting here.
I might. I'll probably stand up and go. Oh, very good idea. I should put my raincoat on as well, and I'll put on a rather beaten up weather beater, and I will get a sharp and elaborately decorated hat pin out of my pocket, which looks far too nice compared to everything else I have. And I'll just sort of stab it into my cap, kind of haphazard, not particularly worried, just to sort of keep it on, so it doesn't blow away in the wind. And then I will follow Dr. Wallace.
I'll come along. I need to find a phone and phone ahead and just let them know that I won't be there tonight. So I'll come along with you.
Yes, sorry about your poor documents, Mr. Caffey.
I mean, I suppose they'll have to wait. Uncle won't be too pleased, but fortunately he's down in London and I'm all the way up here.
Well, surely he can't gripe with an act of God.
You'd think, but he's griped for far littler things than this.
Oh well, I'm very sorry. I have known some people who are similar in my time.
You look like an outdoorsy sort of man, Mr. Harrow. You wish to join us?
Absolutely. I hope that's okay.
Of course.
At this point, you all realise he's already wearing his hiking boots. Has been the whole time.
I was going to say has been the entire time. Yeah.
Probably has no other boots.
Okay. You head out. This village is literally a train line through the station, and then kind of adjacent to that is a single road with some houses along it, and a pub is there, which you hear some kind of lively conversational noises coming out of. It's sort of a mud, like a packed mud street, so it's kind of sloshy as you work your way down. If you're in the road, the footpath is paved.
Footpath then. What's kind of like scenery like around here? Is it like in the middle of the hills? Is it near the coast? Is it kind of in kind of a more rolling valley area?
Yeah, it's kind of rolling. You can see a couple of larger hills off in the distance, but you're not kind of nestled in. So yeah, it's sort of valleyed.
Okay. Is there like a stream somewhere nearby?
Not
through the
that's
village?
obvious. No, not through the center of the village. No.
Okay.
I think
If you wanted to poke around sort of the outsides of the village, then you're welcome to.
I think I will probably make a fairly direct beeline for the pub. The weather is a bit worse than in England.
Did Jemima want to go looking around for?
Yeah. I think Jemima's going to have a bit of a wander around further, trying to see what's a little bit, maybe what's a bit further out of the village, if there's anything else interesting around.
Okay. What are Dane and Melvin going to do?
I'm going to sort of notice that Jemima is looking around and probably going to have a wander about and ask whether I might be able to stretch my legs alongside her.
And Melvin's probably trying to use the same phone that the train staff are using, or if they're sort of too busy on it, he potentially go towards the pub then and see if they've got a phone that he could use.
Okay. We'll deal with that first. So you get to the phone, and there's kind of a short queue of train staff. One of them, as you get there, sounds like he's kind of just winding his conversation up. Do you want to queue there, or do you want to try and convince anyone that you need to make a call with some haste?
He might try and sort of go to the person at the front of the queue and give it a go, just saying, I'm sorry to be a bother, but I just need to make a quick phone call, just to the office, you see, just so they know not to expect me there tonight, if you don't mind, of course.
Well, look, mate, I've got about 100 passengers that need somewhere to stay tonight. I don't.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100 calls for you to make. Where I've just got to make one tiny little one.
Do you want to make a roll on persuade? Seems appropriate.
Yeah.
First roll of the game. Congratulations.
Yeah.
He's thinking. Your maths kind of adds up in his.
That is a 38. My skill is 60, so that is a pass.
Cool. He kind of looks up a bit, thinking about what you've said, and goes, "All right, mate, but look, like about 20 seconds, all right? Just a real quick one."
Yeah, it won't take long. I promise.
And you see the person behind him kind of elbow him in the back, and he goes, "What?"
So gets a sort of slip of paper out of his pocket with the Glasgow office number on. Puts his. I just remembered you actually had to put money in phones. Is it a pay phone, or is it like just a?
No, because it's almost like a company phone.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, just sort of rings the thinger, rings the office number, and yeah, I don't know what happens after that.
It rings for a reasonable amount of time. Are you kind of waiting to see if somebody picks up?
Yeah, so I'll give an apologetic look at the person I pushed in front of, but
he kind of goes, and you hear the receiver pick up at the other end, and a hello, and you recognize it as your uncle's voice.
Hello, Uncle. It's me, Melvin.
Melvin, you should be in Glasgow by now, shouldn't you?
Yeah. About that, there's been been a bit of a mix, or not a mix up, trouble with the trains. There's been an accident on the lines, and I'm sorry.
You hear him. You hear the sound of a drink pouring from a glass jar into a glass, and then a gulp, and then, when will you be there?
First thing tomorrow morning, I promise.
All right. Yeah, you see that you are. I'll call ahead and let them know that you're not going to be there tonight.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Melvin.
And sort of hangs up. Says thank you to the train members, train staff that will let him go ahead. And
Because
probably...
yeah. No worries, mate. Look, you probably shouldn't let anybody speak to you like that.
Oh, he's my uncle. He's just, looking out for me. He just wants me to do well.
All right. And he goes and makes his phone call.
God, I just want to give Melvin a hug so bad.
Skye, Esther heads into the pub. It's very warm in there. You almost get like a wave of warm air as you open the door. There's a reasonable amount of conversation going on, which you've probably been in pubs like this before, and you would expect the conversation to dip more when you walk in than it actually does. But you then spot a few groups of other people who you recognize from the train in here. So you've probably managed to avoid the brunt of the, this person isn't local by these other people kind of beating you in there.
Yeah.
And a couple of them even give you kind of a polite nod if they've recognized you from the train.
Esther nods politely back and sorry.
No, it's fine. Go on.
She's fairly unperturbed about being noticed because she's quite unnoticeable as it is. So even when she isn't local, people don't pay her that much attention.
Are you heading to the bar?
Yes.
Cool. The barman is in on his own tonight, obviously not having foreseen that he'd be descended upon by half a train full of commuters, and it takes probably a good 5 minutes for him to get round everybody to get to you, and he says, good evening, miss. What can I get you?
Could I please have what local ale do you have? Do you mind?
Oh, we've got a Thornhill Stout.
Oh wow, that would be lovely. Thank you very much. I do like to try a little bit of the local brew wherever I go. Could I just have a half pint, please? Thank you.
Yes, very good. He pours you a half pint and pops it down, and continues on. You continue to get kind of polite eye contact from people from the train, and probably slightly less polite eye contact from some people who've probably lived here for 70 years and are sat on a table that they've probably sat on for 50 of those years. But they're actually outnumbered in the pub by people from the train, so nothing particularly bad happens. Jemima and Dane. Sam, could you make me a roll, please, on Natural World?
Yeah.
I realized that I didn't explain the rolling mechanism for the first roll of the game, which is my bad. But basically in Call of Cthulhu, it works. You have a stat, which is from 1 to 100, like a percentile. You then roll a D100, which is 2 D10s, one of which has digits and one of which has tens on. And you add those two numbers together, and that is what you've rolled. If you roll under your stat, you succeed. So how has that roll gone for Jemima?
Rolling it now. Okay, I got a 3, which
Very
is
good.
under everything, including the
Yeah.
5 and everything.
In that case, you do succeed. Would you like to put a little tick? If you the box next to natural world, if you click on it, it puts a tick in. So technically, in the rules as written, anytime you succeed on a roll, you tick the box for that thing, and later you can do a check to see if you improve in that skill. I think that makes it too easy to improve in a skill, so I'm going to say that if you do a hard or extreme success, so a half or a fifth, then we'll check that box. So by rolling a 3, you definitely did that. You very quickly managed to kind of look around and figure out where you think water may have run down from, and even, where the village may have been built because water is nearby and all that kind of stuff. And within a couple of minutes, you managed to work your way through some kind of boggy grassland to get to a stream.
I'm kind of actually a little pleased with myself. Is Dane following me as I wander towards the stream through some fields? Cool. You'll see me. I'll probably be off ahead of you, but I'll kind of smile at myself and nod a little bit just as I walk up there, looking around, kind of looking a bit thoughtful.
Dane's going to kind of approach and just say, it's been a while since I've been able to walk so freely and so comfortably. It's great to be home.
Where have you been before this, may I ask?
Somewhere much drier and much higher up, and I wasn't enjoying my time there.
Where was that? Out of the country, you said?
Yeah, so I was helping an expedition in Nepal.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know if you ever hiked or walked at that altitude, but it's certainly very tiresome after a while.
I have heard. I've done plenty of walking myself, but nothing at altitude.
So what's bringing you up to Scotland?
Various things. I was meeting with a fellow researcher, but honestly, the thing that really most interests me was going to see some field sites and doing some expeditions on some boats further up north in the Highlands. A few different locations I'd planned to visit, some of the west coast, or around Oban and the area. I was kind of going to see where things took me, though. I'm a marine biologist by trade. Probably haven't heard of that. Effectively, as it sounds, I study the flora and fauna of the oceans.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I was heading to Skye and was expecting to be going there today. I wasn't really prepared for spending time with a number of people, feeling a little bit unprepared. Dane is sort of looking very self-conscious at his slightly scruffy demeanor.
I will look down at my own mucky boots and just kind of smile back at him, and then be like glancing around at where we are.
Are you wanting to kind of do anything specific at the stream?
You know what? I'm gonna taste the stream because I'm curious if it's acidic or alkali, and if it's got a lot of iron minerals in it, because you can taste that, and I'm a sort of person who's interested in these things.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I don't have to roll if you're not gonna. There's nothing useful.
No, you don't have to roll, because there's no need, because you would be able to tell. Yes, it's very healthful water, very kind of pure. You can sort of see, although it's dark, you can kind of see the hilly area in the distance, which you presume is where the spring is that it's kind of run down from. And it's very tasty as water goes.
I will actively drink some more and repeat, as you said, very healthful water here, and kind of look around. I think this is probably kind of obviously quite unusual for just a woman to be out just off in the stream now, basically drinking from it. I think that's kind of what Jemima's like. So.
Cool. you would probably all want to, within about probably 40 minutes of having left, you'd probably want to be heading back. So unless anybody has anything more specific to do, Jack, is Melvin going to the pub? After the
Yeah,
call?
he probably made his way over to the pub.
I imagine that as Melvin arrives, I beckon him over, and I point to my half pint and go, I'm not actually too fond of this, but if you would do me the honour of, apparently it's the local stout. You do look like you could do with a drink.
Yeah, sure. And he just tries a bit of that. I don't know whether he likes it. He doesn't drink that much, so probably not.
I guess it goes untouched between us then.
Yeah.
Sort of like, meh.
The barman occasionally catches your eye, Melvin, as he's passing. Do you want to get his attention to get another drink, or are you happy just not really drinking that half a pint?
Yeah, he's happy. In his eyes, he's probably being polite by drinking it, not realizing that he probably should buy a drink. But yeah, sort of drinking a bit and going, grimacing a little bit. But, yeah.
Great. So the time comes for you all to kind of return back to the train. And you head back to... Would you have taken all your stuff with you or left it on the train? Like your luggage?
I would have.
You might have well left it,
train.
actually. So you head back to your seats to get the remainder of your belongings. And only a couple of minutes after you get back, the young man who came in to tell you where you were going comes back onto the train and says, "Oh, your ride is here to Durasdeer. Let me." He kind of leans out of the door and beckons to another member of the train staff. And they start gathering all of your belongings together and carrying them off the train for you all. Anything that you're already holding, they kind of say, "Would you like me to take that?" And they lead you off the train and down off the platform and towards a cart being pulled by two horses with a young man sat at the head of it. He looks to be in his mid-20s. His clothes are kind of scruffy, and he looks quite gaunt. And the guy who had come to tell you where you were going, just before you get over to the cart, kind of turns to you and says, his name's Jimmy. Just bear in mind that he doesn't really say very much, or anything. So you'll probably have to make conversation yourselves on the way to the village. He came back from the war this way, I'm afraid. And then he turns round.
I kind of visibly frown when he says nothing, and as soon as he says came back from the war, I just kind of stop frowning and look down instead.
And they lead you over to the cart and put all your luggage in one section. And there's a couple of steps up the side, which they kind of stand near and hold a hand out for anybody who needs a hand getting up into the cart.
When you say cart, do you mean covered, proper, or is it literally just an open?
It's not covered. It's an open cart, but the weather has improved to the point that it's kind of just a drizzle at this point. So if you're wearing any kind of raincoat or anything like that, then you would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're all aboard, one of them taps on the back of the cart and you, after the initial kind of lurch as the horses set off, you kind of settle into a steady journey.
I feel like, because the tradition with like carts is to have the two women like towards the front or in the middle of the cart, and then the men like up on the back or something like that. I'm just having an amusing image of like Melvin kind of like on the back of this cart trying not to fall off.
Yeah, that's probably right, to be fair.
I think Esther will probably just look like she's quietly enjoying everything.
Mm-hmm. I think Dr. Wallace Jemima was originally kind of looking more grumpy, but she's actively enjoying this and maybe trying to hide it a little bit now because she feels a bit embarrassed for being grumpy about the train. But this is quite fun.
So you're traveling along a kind of, again, it's like a packed mud sort of single track lane, which is leading away from Thornhill. After about 20 minutes, you realize that ahead of you is kind of this hilly area that you're that looks like the path kind of goes through a valley into this hilled area. The lad driving has still said nothing to you at this point. The only noise that you have heard come from him is at one point a bird flew across in front of the horses, and one of them kind of neighed a little, and he did a little shh to the horse. That's the only noise that you've heard come from him, which was barely audible over the sound of the horses kind of clopping and the wheels of the cart turning in the dirt. You guys would obviously be making some kind of conversation, presumably amongst yourselves on the way there.
I kind of feel like, given the setup of him being very quiet and the mention of the war and that sort of thing, I'd probably be a little quieter now myself, unless someone else initiates conversation.
Dane has pulled a compass out of his pocket and is checking the direction. Then sort of smirks a little bit anxiously and says, I think we're heading the right way, at least.
You are heading northeast from Thornhill.
So in an attempt at a joke, he says, I think we'll be in Glasgow in the next 4 or 5 days.
I hope not. I told my uncle that I'd be there first thing tomorrow.
First thing tomorrow? That's maybe a little ambitious.
Well, look at it another way. It's 4 or 5 days in which you don't have to see your uncle.
No, that's true. Although if he doesn't hear from me for 5 days, it might be worth me never just sort of letting him know I'm still alive, because I won't be here for much longer.
Your uncle sounds rather a harsh man.
He just wants what's best for me. He really does.
What is best for you, Mr. Caffrey?
He's sent me up here to be part of the firm up here in Glasgow. He's got his office in London, but they're expanding. He's a lawyer, you see, and he's paid for my education after my parents were gone. So I owe him.
I see.
So, just over an hour passes from when you left the train. So we're heading towards about 7 p.m. by this point. And you kind of come out from between two hilled sides, and ahead of you, you can spot some light against the backdrop of some more hills. So this place seems to really be kind of tucked away, nestled away in the hillside. And another few minutes, and you reach the beginning of the village. So there are gas lamps lighting the streets, and you head down the kind of single track road into the village and pull into the village square. So the square is surrounded by there's a couple of houses, the pub, which is where you presume you will be staying, and a church. And in the center of the village square is a partially constructed monument, which you might presume was a Great War monument being constructed. In London and many other cities that you would have visited, these would already be completed. But in a number of kind of the smaller villages, it's been a bit of an ongoing task to get the funds together or what have you to get these put together. And the cart pulls up between the monument and the pub. Which is called the Fox. And he stops the cart and basically just sits, looking forward still. He doesn't turn around to you at all.
I will get up and go, well, I think that's our cue. I assume we're staying in that pub over there. And I'll step down from the cart and I'll sort of like I'll with quite a lot of ease and and I'll sort of pick up my own luggage and then rifle through a little purse and take out a tuppence and sort of just offer it to the gentleman who's been driving the cart and say thank you very much for getting us here.
You're muted.
It was just being in character of the cart driver.
He there couldn't have been a better time for that, could there? He turns and nods to you, but then closes your hand around the money and doesn't take it.
I'll go, oh well, thank you very much for your hospitality. And
he nods again.
I walk off towards the pub.
Dane he's going to get off the cart and say thank you, and he's thinking about putting his hand on the driver's shoulder to say thanks, and then he decides not to at the last minute.
I think Jemima just is a little weirded out by the situation, kind of just gets her luggage, her rucksack and her kind of suitcase and mutters a quiet thanks as she kind of trots off fairly briskly.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go on, Jack. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, Melvin's pretty much doing the same thing, grabbing his bits, sort of saying a muttered sort of thanks to the driver and making his way.
Then, which comes as quite a shock to you all based on the kind of silence, the driver of the cart lets out a very shrill whistle, and you hear him kind of set the horses going again, and they head off. The pub is lit. There is little or maybe no noise coming from inside. And there is not really any noise in the rest of the village either.
Is it quite dark at this point?
Yeah, so there's gas street lights around, so you've got visibility, but it's night now.
Were you kind of ahead of us going straight into the pub, Esther, or were you pausing?
I will pause and just take a quick note of the silence and be like, well, it seems we will have very restful nights, and we will all sleep well, and sort of then open the door and step into the pub.
Could use a good night's sleep. I follow you in.
Okay. As you all enter, you see a man dressed mostly in black at the bar, speaking to the landlord. There's nobody else in the pub. And they seem to be locked in some kind of tense conversation. If anybody would like to basically eavesdrop, if you would like to make a listen roll, you're not obliged to.
How, given this is quite a small space, is it almost like you can hear bits of the conversation if you're just standing there without going out of the pub, or is it you have to kind of really try to hear it? Are they trying to be quiet? You know?
They are kind of trying to be quiet, but that kind of angry whispering that if you listen, you can hear what they're saying.
I think it's in Esther's nature to eavesdrop on any conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So she's definitely going to listen in.
So yeah, anyone who wants to try and listen, if you would make a listen roll for me, please.
I think Dr. Wallace is very curious, but also a bit too polite.
Oh, my bad luck! It arrives. It rears its ugly head. I have a 70 in listen, and I got a 72.
Ooh.
This will be a trend, guys.
So here's a chance for us to go through a couple of potential rules for this kind of thing. So in 7th edition Call of Cthulhu, you can do what's called pushing a roll, which means that you basically get to re-roll, but if you fail, something bad will happen. You can also, this is an optional rule, but I'm happy to use it, you can spend luck points to improve your score. So the luck points that you have listed, you could spend 2 to cause yourself to have a success. All that means is that later, if I ask you to make a luck roll, you will have a lower chance of succeeding if you spend them.
Okay. Let me just check my my luck.
Am I right in thinking we don't really get luck points back as well?
I think so. Yeah.
Where do I find luck on the character sheet again?
It's below sanity in the top bit.
Underneath Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, yes, I see. Thank you. As expected, I'm not particularly lucky either, but why not? It's the beginning. I'm sure I can afford to lose some luck.
Okay, so you're going to spend a couple of points just to get that as a success.
Yeah, so that's
great.
Down 2. So I was 45 luck, and now I am 42.
Is anybody else trying to listen in? Dane or Melvin?
Dane is still kind of stood in the threshold, probably out of earshot.
Jack was Melvin, sorry?
No, he's
okay.
He's not. He's
So Esther, you hear the man stood on your side of the bar, saying, "I told you that you shouldn't be letting them stay. You need to get rid of them." He then kind of turns and looks over his shoulder and sees that you're all stood there. And Matt, could we have the picture, please, of the priest? This is the man that you see, rather tired and gaunt looking. And after having turned and seen you, he turns back to the barman and says, "We'll talk about this another time," and kind of tears past you out of the pub.
It did seem like he was, I mean, I didn't hear what he said and the other two didn't, but he seemed unsettled and kind of nervous walking past us, I'm assuming. Yeah,
you spotted the look on his face as he realized that you were there while he was having this conversation.
Okay.
And he kind of charged past you in a sort of I don't really want to interact with these people kind of way. And you now get a good look at the barman, who is give or take 6 foot, bearded, kind of a big guy, but in the way that isn't really muscly or fat, just kind of, takes up quite a large amount of space, quite large build. And he's wearing sort of your typical barman attire for the time, so like a long sleeved cotton shirt and then kind of a brown waistcoat over the top and then an apron. And he says, "You must be our esteemed guests from the London to Glasgow train. Is that correct?"
Jonny, would any of our characters be perturbed by the fact that we've not seen any other passengers? Were we expecting people to be staying in the same village, or was that unclear?
The kind of the feeling that you got from the train staff was that basically there's just loads of small villages dotted around with not very much space for each, for many people. So the groups that you got split into have each been sent off to different villages, or at least different pubs. So, a village that had 2 or 3 pubs might have had 3 lots of people, but because this is the only pub here, it doesn't seem strange to you that you're the only group that have come here.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. He then says, "I'm afraid that I don't have note of your names. My name is Duncan Kilbride. Could I just have a note of your names, please?"
I will probably immediately offer up Dr. Jemima Wallace and give my head a curt nod.
Ah, a doctor. Lovely.
I am Esther Smith.
Miss Smith. That's lovely. Thank you.
I give Melvin a sort of after you gesture.
Thank you. I'm Melvin Caffey.
Mr. Caffey. Very good.
Dane Harrow.
Mr. Harrow. That's wonderful. Obviously, this lodging has all been arranged quite last minute, so I'm afraid that I may need to ask the gentleman to share a room and the ladies to share a room. Is that acceptable?
That will be fine.
That's fine.
So lovely. And also breakfast in the morning, maybe in short order, I'm afraid, but I'll put together what I can. I did already have one gentleman booked in for this evening, so I do have some stuff on hand. And as he says this, the door kind of swings open, and another man walks in. He's red-haired, and he looks quite weather-beaten from the day, and stubbly, and he's kind of got a big grin on his face. And as it becomes clear that the barman is kind of talking to you, he doesn't interrupt the conversation and takes himself off upstairs. And Duncan says, and that's him. Willie Scott, his name. I believe he's... well, he won't get anything from you, but he's writing a book about the speech of this area, the kind of dialects. Quite interesting, actually. Interesting man. Much more cheerful than you would imagine for somebody who's writing about dialects. Anyway, I'm sure he'll introduce himself to you through the course of the evening. Please let me take you upstairs. And he heads up and kind of beckons you to follow him.
While we're on the way up the stairs, I might just briefly question the innkeeper. What was his name again? Sorry?
Duncan.
He didn't give us a last name, so I will just call him Duncan.
Yes, Duncan Kilbride.
Kilbride, okay, I'll call him. Mr. Kilbride, the priest back there didn't seem especially pleased to see us.
Oh, you don't need to worry about him. Superstitious.
Fair enough.
Happens a lot in these small villages. People get a little too closed in.
Of course.
Of course, I have the benefit of seeing the travellers, so I know that they're not all a bad sort. And he opens one room and points Dane and Melvin in. And it's a pretty basic room, 2 beds, each with a bedside stand and a gas lamp on each bedside stand as well. And a kind of jug of water on each as well, and a small glass. And he says there's a shared bathroom just down the hall. And ladies, this is your room, and it's the room opposite. So he opens the other door. Very similar setup, but there's also a rug on the ground.
The ladies get the rug.
Yeah.
I was while we're kind of being shown to our room, I will also inquire the innkeeper. The railways are covering the inn, are they, or are we paying you for this? May I ask?
No, yes, the breakfast and the night stay are being covered by the railway insurance, I believe.
I'm glad to hear it, as long as you're getting paid as well.
Oh, absolutely. I would. I mean, this has no offense, but you wouldn't be staying here if I wasn't.
You a small chuckle.
Can I offer you anything in the way of refreshments now?
What sort of time is it in the day now?
You're about 7:30 p.m, so you're probably hungry.
Yeah. I'll probably just say, give me a moment, please, and I'll be back downstairs shortly.
Very good. He heads off. Both of your room doors are left open, so you can converse if as a group if you wanted to.
I think I will I'll walk into the room, and I will turn to Dr. Wallace and be like, you don't mind if I close the door? Just a little bit of privacy while I get into a more indoors outfit.
Was about to close it myself.
And as you close it, you see a sort of change come over my demeanor, and I just sort of collapse onto the bed and go, my goodness. I was like, Mr. Caffey doesn't seem to have a spine about him, does he?
Did you see him almost fall off the back of the cart?
Oh, goodness. Oh gosh, it's. I mean, I'm not even that old, but it's too late in my time of life to be shepherding around young men who can't even hold onto a cart.
Still, did you see the chin on Mr. Harrow?
Well, yeah, possibly. Some might enjoy such a thing.
I like a quiet man.
Well, yes, that yes. I do agree.
What did you make of the priest downstairs? Very unsettling. Not exactly a welcome.
Yeah. It's sort of a odd fellow. It's strange for a priest to be superstitious. But yeah, I actually overheard what that priest was saying.
Oh.
Probably exactly as you could imagine. Why are you letting them stay here? You shouldn't let them stay here, etc.
Hopefully we're not going to be here too long if others are going to be acting like that.
Yeah, well. And I will sort of like strip off my weather beater and just like chuck it carelessly over a chair, and sort of kind of like just sort of like take my hat off and like pull the pin out and just like give my scalp a really good scratch. Just like, oh god, it's so itchy under there, and then just like put it back on again and be like, all right, well, I suppose we better go down and get some rations then. And
so there was a shared bathroom, you said, Jonny, not a bathroom in here. So there's no sink or anything in this room.
No.
Okay. I'm just going to go refresh myself briefly. I'll be down momentarily. I've kind of taken off my, as John pointed out, probably in chat, probably a Macintosh would be a better word for it. So taken off my Macintosh and my big hat, and Be down there in a moment.
Yeah. So I will sort of walk out the door, and my sort of like carelessness sort of like gets like sucked back up, and I'm just like back to being like very like prim and sort of polite and proper, and I'll sort of like walk down the stairs.
Okay. Have Melvin and Dane been having any conversation in that time? Are you still in the room, or have you headed straight down?
Bad mouthing us.
I don't know whether this is right, but I just imagine like the girls' room being all chatty, and then like it pans over to our room, and there's literally like cricket noises, just sort of. But I don't know.
I think Dane has kind of thrown his bag down on the bed, done a very quick inventory, but not really changed his boots or any of his clothes, and he's sort of going to turn around to Melvin and just say, "Do you fancy getting some food before we turn in?"
Yeah, I could do. I could do with something to eat. It's been a while since the cheese sandwich on board the train. Melvin doesn't really have anything to change. He had his, like an overcoat, which he probably just puts over this is like on the back of a chair, or probably hangs it up on a coat hanger actually in there or something. But yeah, all his luggage was sent ahead of him, so he's sort of stuffed in case of spare underpants or anything like that. Stop the night.
Dane's going to ask Melvin. I think Dane was kind of almost outside when there was the discussion inside. He's going to ask Melvin, "Did you hear anything before with what was happening downstairs?"
No, I didn't hear anything. I just saw an angry priest walking by us. No, why? Did you hear something?
I know what it feels like to be unwelcome somewhere, and yeah, I think we need to be careful here.
Oh, I'm sure it's just one angry priest. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. We can just stay here, and we'll be out of harm's way, just staying in this inn. Shall we go down and get some food?
Yes, I hope you're right. Let's get some food.
So Jemima heads down the hallway. There are two more doors down here, one of which is open, and you can see has a bath and a toilet and a sink in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just kind of splash some water in my face and refresh myself a little bit. I probably brought like a cloth or something from my bag and just kind of give myself a wipe down, take off my boots and kind of wipe down my trousers a little bit, try and look a bit more presentable, and then go back to the room and change into my actual normal indoor shoes and probably find a nice cozy woolly jumper and then head downstairs.
Great. So you three are downstairs already, and then you see Jemima coming down wearing a very cozy looking jumper. And after are you all just going to sit at a table down there? Or the bar? So, yeah. It's up to you. After a couple of minutes, the barman or innkeeper kind of comes out from a back room and says, "I'm so sorry, I've been a terrible host. Can I offer you some food? I've got some stew that I can reheat with some bread, if that'd be."
That sounds very amenable. Thank you.
What is the stew?
Mostly vegetables and a little bit of game.
That'll be fine, thank you. Not too much for me.
Yeah, that'll be lovely. Thank you.
Very good. He kind of disappears again, and a few minutes later, you see the red-haired man who you had previously seen come in with a big grin on his face head down the stairs. And he kind of locks eyes with each of you as he's heading down the stairs, grabs a chair from another table, and comes over to yours and kind of gives you a look as if to say, "Do you mind?"
Yeah, I imagine we all just kind of shrug.
Yes, of course. Please join us. I heard the barman saying that you are studying the local dialect.
Yes, that I am. My name's Willie Scott. Don't forget the name, because well, don't forget it. You'll see it on a book soon. If you like the way that people talk around here, it might be of interest to you. It's going to be called The Vernacular of Mid Nithsdale. I'm just picturing it flying off the shelves, especially in, Thornhill. That's where I'm heading next, Thornhill. Do you know Thornhill?
It's where our train stopped.
Oh, how was it?
The village, fine.
Yeah, is it good?
Wet.
I don't want to go to villages that aren't nice. I've stayed in some on my journeys that are not very welcoming.
More welcoming than here. I don't
Really?
say too loud.
Oh, I found it to be quite nice here.
I will sort of like slip into the conversation to like sort of allay any awkwardness, and just be like, so do you know much of about the industry around here? What do people do to make their living?
Oh, I think they're well, there's obviously Duncan runs the pub. I think a lot of it around here is agriculture. There's quite a large lake nearby, so I think there's a few sort of fishing boats that head out on there as well. And obviously the village teacher and the priest, and I think that's probably the majority of the jobs that we've got here.
I'll perk up when he says lake and just be like, yeah, within a walk?
Oh, a long walk, mind. But you could. It'd take you a couple of hours to walk there, I'd say.
Not a problem. Okay, I'll make note of that. Which way from here, or should I ask around the village?
If you head, the way that you've come in from Thornhill, if you carry on in the same direction along the road, you get to the lake. There's a village there that I've just stayed at. It was very lovely, picturesque, I think is the word. Aye.
Thank you. We're not sure how long we're going to be stuck here, so it might be nice to find some diversions. But thank you.
Oh, you're stuck here. What's happened?
As I said, the train. We came on a train that's stopped at Thornhill. Sadly, the railways in all directions to Glasgow, as far as we can tell, are blocked. So we are temporarily stuck in this area.
Oh, that's no good, is it? That's oh dear. And the door to the back room kind of comes open, and Duncan comes out carrying quite a large pot, and kind of in the crook of his arm, he's got some bowls and spoons with some bread. Obviously, trying to carry everything all in one go. And comes on, excuse me, and just kind of drops the pot in the center of the table. Sets you out each some bowls, and he goes, "Any more for you, Willie?" And Willie just kind of waves him away, and continues talking as Duncan's putting bread out for each of you and kind of ladling you out some stew, and then takes the pot off again. As the door to the back is about to swing close, he kicks it open again and says, "Any drinks for you?"
No, thank you. That will be fine.
I could take a whiskey.
Good man. I'll join you.
I feel like it's funny how I was about to say yes to the whiskey for Dr. Wallace, and I feel like while she does want a whiskey, she also feels like it's a bit uncouth to ask for a whiskey. But then she thinks she's in the middle of a village, stuck in the middle of nowhere, with 4 people she might never see again. So she decides to ask for a whiskey as well.
Melvin's also going to ask for one, trying to be one of the sort of men. But again, he doesn't drink a lot, so
Cool.
Yeah, I imagine it doesn't go down smooth.
He comes back with a bottle of whiskey which you don't recognize the name of, and kind of looks like it's just been written on paper and stuck on the bottle. You presume it might be a local distillery potentially that it's come from.
Roll whiskey recognition.
Yeah, and brings 6 glasses with him, and grabs a chair from under the table and brings it over and sits down with you, and puts a glass in front of everyone, and then pours 5, and the one that's in front of Esther, he kind of goes,
I will go. Just a drop, so I may taste it. But I'm afraid I don't have too much of a head for strong alcohol.
oh, very good. And he pours you. He very respectfully just kind of puts you a tiny amount in to let you have a taste, and screws the lid back on the bottle. And says, "So what's the topic of conversation this evening?"
We want to know how to say cheers in the local vernacular.
Well, I just use cheers. Willie might be able to offer me some kind of alternative. And you see, you notice that Willie's got a kind of like satchel bag on his side that he like a leather satchel that he kind of pulls open, and he drops out 2 enormous notebooks onto the table, and starts kind of pouring through them.
I'll give Dane an amused look.
And you hear him kind of saying words that sound quite heavily Scots based, and then kind of their English counterpart as he's looking through to try and find this word. And he basically completely zones out from any other conversation that's going on while he's doing this. This is kind of his baby, like could be his life's work for all you know. You're not sure how long he's been going on with this project. So yeah, he basically disappears from the outside world at this point.
So I think I gently and quietly sort of raise my glass and give everyone a bit of a clink without distracting him from his book.
Yeah, clink.
Cheers, says Duncan, and has another sip of his drink.
Is the whiskey rather strong? I guess to other Southerners it would probably be.
It's quite strong, but also, quite nicely flavorful as well, rich. But yes, you get a nice taste, and then if you're not prepared, you'd probably cough.
Mine was probably not prepared, so she will cough. Go as politely and subtly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does Melvin?
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to cough and try and sort of hide it, but probably not very well.
I'll probably turn to him and quite nicely go, I hope you haven't caught a cold. We were out in some quite dreadful weather. And I'll give him a sort of a pat on the shoulder.
No. I think I'm fine.
Duncan kind of grins a little and says, "That's a Scots cold. That's what that is." So what are you all on your travels for?
I was headed to Glasgow on my way to a few other locations doing research. I'm a marine biologist by trade, studying fauna.
Marine biologist?
Yes. I guess I've sort of created the name myself in this sense. Studying the ocean, as one would consider it.
A specialist, then?
Yes, I suppose I could call myself that, although only some would recognize me as such.
Very impressive. And you, he says, looking at Melvin, you look like you might be... you don't work with your hands. Are you work in an office? Yeah.
You could say that. I'm a lawyer, actually. I'm on my way to Glasgow to help at my uncle's office up there. He's opening a new one. in addition to the one in London. So
He's
he
put a lot
set
of
me up.
faith in you, I guess, boys. Put a lot of faith in you.
Yeah, you could say that. This is probably shaking Melvin a little bit, realizing that there's a lot of pressure on him now, more than he sort of realized.
Why don't you have another drink of whiskey?
Yeah, he probably does actually with that. He's sort of take another gulp.
Yeah, he paws you a little more after you've had the next sip as well, and says, "If you can handle that, you can handle setting up your uncle's office."
Sure hope so.
Hopefully he won't need it to do so.
Now, you, on the other hand, he says, turning to Dane, you look like you might be the outdoorsy type. Are you a farmer?
So Dana's kind of perked up a little bit, and he thinks he's getting into the zone socially a little bit, but that's probably just the whiskey talking. No, I'm not a farmer, but I am outdoors a lot. I'm heading to Skye, to the Cullen Ridge. I'm very excited to get up there, get out into the hills. It's not like around here, all flat and boring. Have you been to Skye before?
No, I can't say I have. I don't manage to get out of Durrisdeer too often, unfortunately. In fact, I think the furthest north I've been is probably Glasgow.
You're missing out. You should take a trip up to the Highlands, to the islands sometime.
Well, if I can get somebody to look after the pub for me, then maybe I shall. And
Mr.
you,
Harrow, you
Miss-
consider this flat around here?
Absolutely.
Not considering going for some walks in the hills while you're waiting? Just not challenging enough for you?
I do love a long walk, wherever it might be. But do we know when our train is coming tomorrow?
Nothing heard yet. We'll have to see, I suppose. Actually, I'll probably look at the innkeeper at this and be like, "Do you know if how we might hear?"
I believe that the plan is for you to be called upon by Jimmy, who brought you here. I think he's got all the details and the times to get you back. So we won't let you miss it. Don't worry about that. I couldn't give you an exact time, but he'll be here to collect you tomorrow.
So until we hear, I suppose we have to wait around the village.
I'm afraid so at the moment, yes.
Yeah, it's okay. So thank you.
And you, Miss, what were your travels for? Is it holidays or?
I'm running just an errand for my brother. I'm going to see a friend of his in Glasgow to catch up.
Sounds very nice. Well, now I've finished my whiskey. I'm afraid I have some tasks to do. I'll leave you in the... He kind of turns and looks at Willie and goes, occupied hands of Willie here. I can highly recommend a walk around the outskirts of the village at night. It's very, very pleasant. There are some streams that pass through the outside of the village that may be of interest to you. Dr. Wallace, he says, with a not faked, respectful kind of, tone in his voice. Mm-hmm. Sounds quite sincere. Yes, there's some lovely little streamed areas, some lovely little sort of quaint wooden bridges that cross over them. It really is it's a nice place. So yes, I can highly recommend that. And if you need anything else, just give me a knock on that back door. I'm just going to be doing some cleaning up and preparing for the morning. And he gets up and sees himself off.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to look at what was it Willie is looking through, leafing through at the moment. Not that I'll be able to understand any of it, but I'm just kind of interested in someone else's research because it seems like this is a lot of work.
Yeah, so he has 2 books open, one of which seems to be notes or maybe a draft of his actual book that he's putting together, and the other seems to be sort of direct translations from an English word into a sort of Scots dialect word, or small phrases into their counterparts.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads in there.
I think I might kindly but slightly in a sort of exasperated way sort of draw his attention from the book and go, I was wondering, it's very quiet here in the inn tonight, considering. Is there something going on? An event on, perhaps?
He's kind of got his finger on his place in two different books, and says, "Oh, I'm not sure actually. I didn't. Yes, you're right. I think because there's normally a few people in here, and tonight yous were in here, I kind of, didn't particularly pick up on the fact that there's not anybody from the village in here. I'm not aware of anything. You'd have been better probably asking Duncan. But
it didn't seem very polite to ask him.
I suppose it's
patrons.
not a polite thing, yes, to ask a barman why there's nobody in his pub. So I can ask him in the morning if I see him before I see yous.
It's just idle, sort of wondering. Usually these places are sort of packed to the rafters of an evening. People have nothing else to do.
Aye, that's true. And on my walk around the village earlier, I didn't see anybody either, and I'm not really sure why now. Sometimes I go out and I only see a couple of people. I think there's probably only, I don't know, 50 people or something living Durasdeer, but still strange to see nobody, I suppose.
The weather was inclement today, I suppose.
That is true. I did come back in. Your first impression of me was as a drowned rat. So apologies for that. Anyway, I'm going to get back and see if I can find chairs in here for you. And he kind of continues leaving.
As he's saying, I'll be like, oh, don't concern yourself that much.
No, I need to know if that's something that I need to... I've forgotten half of the words that I put in here, so I need to see if that's something that I need to... And his sentence kind of disappears off into itself.
Mm-hmm.
Dane is looking a bit apologetic at this point to everybody for asking.
So now you're kind of at the point where if you wanted to turn in, it wouldn't be unreasonable. You probably had a long day, or you could have a look around the village. Up to you.
I think I'm probably ready to turn in.
Yeah, I think Doctorus would join you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think Melvin's going to bed as well.
It's take advantage of the peaceful atmosphere in this village, and have a lovely rest.
Indeed, I could do with a rest.
I think Dane is tempted by another. He's kind of looking inquisitively over at the bar, but he's also seeing to see if anybody else takes the hint or not.
Is the barman still there?
He's in the back room, but he said to just tap on the door if you needed anything, which presumably would include drinks.
Do you look at me in the process of that?
He's sort of just looking around generally, but not too enthusiastically. I think he sort of feels it'd be great to have company, but also he's happy to be on his own.
I think I
Busy
would.
social calendar for him today.
I think I would stand up, and then seeing that the other two were kind of heading up, I would kind of be like, maybe I could go for another drink, and suggest we head to the bar to get one.
Esther sort of slightly rolls her eyes. It's an inaudible sigh. Like nobody really notices, but she's slightly exasperated and goes upstairs.
Okay, so Esther and Melvin head off upstairs. Does one of you knock on the kind of back door for the barman?
I'll gesture to you.
Yeah, I'll kind of get up and give the door a knock.
Yep, you hear him washing some stuff up, and he goes, "Just a moment." and comes and opens the door and says, Dr. Wallace, Mr. Harrow, how can I help?
We were just hoping to grab one more, but don't trouble yourself. I'm happy to
Oh,
pour one each.
no,
We
no,
can settle up
but
afterwards.
my job is to serve drinks. Everything else is filler. What can I get you? Another one of those fine whiskies?
They were indeed fine.
Another would be great. 2 more, please.
Lovely. Do you know what? I may take a break from my washing up and join you again if you don't mind.
You're welcome.
Lovely. And puts 3 glasses out, pours 3 whiskies. He sits on his stool behind the bar.
Jemima makes a slightly sad face, realizing she was so welcoming to him, I think, a moment later.
And you get the feeling, unless you're saying anything, that he's quite happy to sit in silence in company and just have a drink. He's not going to purposefully make any conversation with you two.
I think Dane would kind of look over to, sorry, what was the guy's name with the books and the notepad? He's still there, right, on the table.
He's still doing it.
Yeah, he's still there, yeah. Yeah.
I think I would...
Willie.
I think I would shout for Willie and ask if he wants one too, whether he wants to join us out of guilt.
He puts his finger on the 2 pages again and goes, yes, I can do this in my room, but company is here now, so yes, and kind of gets a couple of bookmarks out and puts them where he was up to, puts those back in his satchel and comes over. By which point, by the time he's at the bar, Duncan has got another glass out and poured another whiskey for him. And he sits and has his whiskey.
Dean has not taken any hints at all in this process, by the way. He's unaware.
I think it's a long process of hints. I'm trying to think if there's anything Jemima was going to bring up specifically in conversation. Probably not either. No, I think this is kind of a chill, nice evening of just sitting and drinking, having a drink.
So I think Dane is going to ask the innkeeper when he usually closes up.
Well, it's a Monday, so any time now, really. Obviously, there's nobody but you fine folks in. So once you're headed off to bed, I'll probably lock the door up. Fridays and Saturdays, I do a reasonably, I wouldn't say a roaring trade, but there's not that much else to do here. So I do reasonably well on a weekend. But weekday nights, it's normally a couple of people in. Quiet today, but people are maybe just not wanting to leave their houses.
And how about the travelers you meet? What are they usually doing here?
It varies from anything as strange as somebody writing a book called The Vernacular of Mid-Nithsdale to people heading up to the lake, families heading up for sort of camping around here and using this as a stop off or even a base camp for walkers. Yes, we get it's nice around here, nice scenery. So we do get people kind of wandering around and needing a place to stay.
Are there any local guides or guidebooks on the walks nearby?
Ooh, now you're asking. You would be better discussing that at the village store, I think. They're most likely to know if there's... they may have some kind of maps or may be able to point you in the direction of somebody to guide you around. You could have a word with them in the morning.
Is that why everybody's at home so early, going out walking early in the morning?
Yes, it does happen a lot. And like I think Willie told you earlier, most people here are, physical labor is their work. So people are up early and in bed early.
It is Monday night, I suppose.
It is.
Speaking of that, I'm rather tired myself. I think I might head up.
Very good. He
So-
kind of necks the last of his whiskey and puts the glass down on the bar.
So tomorrow morning we shall stay close by and wait to hear more, I suppose.
Yes, the village isn't particularly large, so I'm sure we can find you as long as you're not off wandering in the hills.
Mhm.
But yes, I wish you a lovely night's sleep. And if you need anything in the meantime, you know where I am.
Indeed. Thank you for your hospitality.
Thanks
Of
for taking
course.
care of us. See you in the morning.
Willie kind of finishes his drink and heads off just ahead of you as well. Anything else before sleep?
I was just going to have a little polite good night, Mr. Harrow, and then into my room.
Good night,
muted.
Dr. Wallace.
I think that
That's it.
Esther is going to sit down on the bed, and I am going to remember that she actually walks with a cane and completely forgot about all of that. So now she's going to walk with a cane because she sprained her ankle a bit. So she's going to sort of tentatively like sit down on the bed and sort of be quite grateful to be resting her ankle. Yeah, I think when Jemima comes in, she's probably softly snoring. She's pretty tired.
Is Melvin still up?
Yeah, I think he was up probably reading a bit more of his book in the room, and then sort of says, "Oh, hello, Mr. Harrow. How was it?"
It was good, yeah. Just one more nightcap before sleep. Although we were half staff and half guests, but I guess it is a Monday night.
Yeah, well, from the looks of it, it wasn't very busy down there, was it? So it doesn't take a lot to be a majority of the staff down there, really, to outnumber the guests. I think with that, he sort of goes, well, good night then. Puts his book down and sort of rolls over and turns out the little gaslight and goes to sleep. I presume it's gaslights in there.
It is, yeah. Little gas lamps, yeah.
Yeah, turns out it's a little gas lamp and goes to bed.
I think
Cool.
I'll do the same.
So, at some point during the night,
Sorry, I was just like, this is guaranteed.
you each, unbeknownst to each other, have the same bad dream, during which you awake lying down in the darkness, in the same position in which you went to sleep. You go to move around and realize that you are in something. Further sort of feeling around, you realize that it's a wooden container. And there's a dark moment of realization that you realize you are trapped in a coffin. And you begin to try to scratch your way out through the top of the coffin. Can you all make me listen rolls, please?
Oh my god, what? That was unexpected.
This is a listen roll I don't want to actually don't want to succeed at.
I have no points in listen, but I made it.
I do succeed. It's a 26.
I got a 6.
I do not succeed.
I don't want to hear this, whatever it is.
I do not succeed either.
Okay. Esther and Jemima both awake with a start. And after a moment of kind of bleary-headedness, having just woken up, you realize that the sound that you thought was you scratching in your dreams is actually something scratching on your door in the real world.
That's still quite creepy.
That's worse.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's not worse than waking up in a coffin. I'm going to not make any noise and just try and listen longer, but be very creeped out. And kind of maybe just like gently try and shake Esther in case she's not awake if she's within reach.
I think Esther's just going to like get up and throw the covers off and be like, oh, I'll be like, oh, don't worry. I had a very similar situation once where I was having this dream and I had this sort of like weird book sort of head, and it turned out to be my friend's dog was being rather ill.
As you were talking, you hear the scratching stops and footsteps kind of running away from the room. At which point, I think Melvin and Dane would be woken by the sound of these pounding footsteps running down the hallway.
They were definitely human footsteps, right? I'm just going to leap out of bed. What, did they sound human?
They did sound human, yes.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to leap out of bed and just open the door and see if I can see who it was, because that really creeped me out. And if they're running away, I want to see.
Okay. By the time you've got there, you can hear that they're near the bottom of the stairs.
Okay.
And then you hear the door fling open.
Yeah.
And presumably they're gone.
Okay, I'm not going to go any further. But I'll just turn back to Esther and say that was a person.
I think I'll sort of like shakily laugh and go, a wereman perhaps, and then I'll go. I think perhaps we should step back inside our room for a moment.
Is the door downstairs still open as far as I can hear?
Yes, it sounds like it.
Okay. Do you guys come out of your rooms across?
Do you look at their door?
Yeah, that would probably. I'd be looking at the door, thinking, are they about to come out? So yeah.
You see on their door in chalk quite an ornate design, with the sort of central theme of it being a cross, but then there are kind of more sort of swirly patterns around the outside of it as well. And then you, out of the corner of your eye, you catch that the exact same thing is drawn on your door.
Yeah, I'll close it and look at it as well.
I think I'll just sort of cross my arms and just go, oh, some folk tomfoolery, no doubt. I suppose that the barman didn't lock the door as well as he said he did.
There's a knock on your bedroom door. And you hear, it's Willie. Is everything okay? I heard some noise out here. What's this on your door? And it's on their door as well. Hang on.
I'm just stony faced and quiet. I'm not like reacting really. Super quick.
You hear his footsteps go down the hall, and he comes back and goes, "It's not on my door." And I think we'll leave it there.
That was I enjoyed that.
Thanks, everyone.
That was good.
Yeah, man, that was great.
I was half expecting to make a sanity check at the end there.
Yeah.
Already losing it. Oh.
I'm quite sad because I thought the next thing Esther was going to do after reassuring Jemima was just to fling the door open. And I'm now rather sad that I bothered to reassure her and didn't just fling it open.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. If anybody has any questions or comments, please pop them in the chat, and Matt can feed them over to us for us to answer. I hope everyone watching has enjoyed this. I hope my 4 unwitting players have enjoyed this.
Yeah, really enjoying this. This is fun.
And don't forget that links to our social medias and Discord and Patreon are below the stream or the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube later. Tuesday nights at 8 p.m, Vampire the Masquerade. Wednesday nights at 8 p.m, Simba Room. First Saturday of every month, a one-shot live stream during the day on a Saturday. I think that's all the kind of linky bump to give. So
I love that when Steve posted that earlier. That made me chuckle. Chat's been giving me too many chuckles. It's meant to be somber.
Yeah. I should have got in more having to talk to people on the train. I'll remember that for the next session.
3-4 sessions.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was great. I was really impressed. Glasgow as well.
Thanks.
It wasn't just Scottish. That was clearly Glaswegian or near Glaswegian.
Thank you very much. It's good that it's good because there's going to be loads of them.
Have you
It could have been really painful. Yes, that is true. Poor Melvin.
Do you know what? I think the scariest moment for me was when you were asking about our luggage when we were coming back to the train. And I thought, if Melvin's left his documents on there and he's lost them, I was getting a bit of genuine fear. I was like, this is fictional, but...
Poor Melvin.
I know.
Oh, God.
Oh dear.
I was hoping Melvin was having a different dream about his uncle while we were dreaming of the coffin.
That wasn't a nightmare to him. That was a pleasant dream compared to his normal ones about his uncle. So he'd love to have a coffin between him and his uncle.
No.
Does Esther have any particular accent, or is she quite specifically generic English sounding?
Yeah, she's painfully generic English sounding, considering she's covering up her Dutch accent on purpose. So,
Is it so? She's covering it up well enough that we can't really pick it up, presumably. Then.
yeah, well, she's born Dutch and spent a lot of time out in South Africa with an Afrikaner family. So yeah, she's definitely got a pretty strong Dutch accent, but she's quite good at blending in.
Okay.
And spent some time practicing an English accent.
Jemima has been thoroughly third wheeled here.
Yeah. When these guys in the chat were having this conversation about like Jemima, just like I've only got one night left. I better get on quick. Jeez. I was really struggling to hold it together.
I felt so guilty, but Dane is very socially awkward. He's been away a long time, just not picking up on the vibes
That's
at all.
absolutely fine. Just going to make it funnier.
Open the door, look at it. On it, someone has scratched. Have you ever thought about being your
Oh my god, I had to try so hard to stop from cracking up at that. I was just...
I just want to say, why is Steve not running this
that could
game?
be like
Because
a
it would be so
meme.
much, it would be so much more horror-filled if I'd put in having to talk to more people on the train and somebody suggesting a pyramid scheme on you.
Yeah, God.
What was the creepiest part of the session for players?
Well, we know what Melvin's one was.
Yeah, that's it. I think we've described Melvin's most fear-filled part.
I mean, I can't. It was definitely the end for me. Like, no doubt. That was just like, this doesn't make any sense. What the hell?
I think the silent, quiet town kind of creeped me out the most because it's kind of weird, and especially with like the war monument not being like quite completed, and then it's just completely silent. It's like very unnerving.
Yeah.
How many crafts could a Lovecraft craft if a Lovecraft could craft love? If only Lovecraft could craft love.
Not a central part of the system there.
This is a new ongoing series. Yes, it is. This is the first session. As long as Matt doesn't boot me off after this evening's performance, then yes, it is a new ongoing series every Monday at 8 p.m. and then uploaded to YouTube whenever afterwards. Have all the players played Call of Cthulhu before?
Yeah, I have. On only one-off, though, not like a ongoing campaign.
Yeah, we did one-off with Matt. So
yeah, I played like a couple of years ago, but I watched a session and then I joined in their next one, which was like their last two sessions of this group that I was going to join. They went on to play another game, and I've ran a one-shot of it, The Haunting, which is like the very beginner sort of. I think a lot of people's first sort of game of Call of Cthulhu ends up being that, because I think it's in the starter pack or it's at the back of the book.
I think it's been in every core rule book since 2nd edition or something.
Yeah, but yeah, other than they're my sort of only real, other than the computer game of Call of Cthulhu that they brought out a couple of years ago, which was okay. I think is the best way to describe it.
You haven't though, have you, Matt?
No, I've never before. I'm very green. I think it's been years and years since I last did any kind of role playing or anything like that. So yeah, very.
Well, I think you did great.
Oh, thanks.
Add the nice socially awkward in there. Get used to playing.
Exactly.
Why does the keeper think character skill advancement is too easy? I suppose it depends on how often you ask people for roles, but in a lot of skills, if people have put points into skills, you've got a better than 50% chance of succeeding. And then I realized that you have to roll a D100 and roll higher than your current skill score for it to go up. But to me, that it kind of seems like you could potentially sort of get to put 10 skills up at one time or something, because you could have succeeded on a bunch of rolls. And to me, that seems a little bit like, I like the idea that if you've done really well at something, then you can kind of move up. I also, as an aside, I quite like the idea that if you fail at something, you might get to make an advancement check, because it might make you want to do better at that thing, which I think some systems use that. But yes, basically my thought is that you will succeed on a lot of rolls, and therefore you could end up putting up loads of skills by the time it comes around to skill advancement.
It's just 1 point per up, though, at the end, is it?
It's a D10.
Oh, wow. Okay, no, that is a lot then. Yeah, I completely agree.
So I think that's everything. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to my players. Thank you to Matt for stream managing. Thank you to John for the wonderful artwork. Thank you, everybody that's watched. And please subscribe on here, and give us a follow on social media and YouTube. And join us on Discord, which I think Matt has kindly put the link in the chat as well. And we hope to see you on Tuesday and Wednesday, but also especially next Monday.
Or I'm sure that will be nothing else creepy is going to happen.
Nothing bad will happen from now on.
I hope to go down in a confusion of glorious madness. So, yeah.
Already.
Right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.